Hello and welcome to the Valley Voice, a videocast of the Western Tribune. The Valley Voice brings candidates, community leaders, and notable folks from across the state of Arizona to whatever device you're watching from. If you like what you hear, then please check out the Western Tribune at www.westerntrib.com.
I'm Dawn Grove, and this is the Valley Voice.
Thank you for joining us today.
Glad to be here.
As a third-generation Arizonan, can you tell us a little bit about your family history in Arizona and your upbringing here?
Sure, yeah. So I spent most of my growing up in Arizona. I've always considered it home. My aunts and uncles and cousins and grandparents have been here for ages. My dad went away to work for IBM. He worked on the first personal computer and then came and brought that computerization knowledge back to the family business. And so I always came here knowing that my home was here and all my cousins and everybody were here. And when I was 9 years old, we came back permanently and stayed. And it has been a wonderful place to grow up. I love Arizona. My family loves Arizona. We've invested here a long time.
That's awesome. With regards to your education, can you tell us a little bit about your time in law school and what made you become a lawyer in the first place?
Sure, yes. I knew from the time I was 16 years old that I was going to law school. I knew I loved being a problem-solving advocate for people. And I told my parents and grandparents I was going to law school, and they shook their heads and said, "Oh, we don't need a lawyer." And they told me if I was doing that, I was on my own. And so it kind of kept me on the straight and narrow throughout high school and college. I knew I had to work really hard and get a scholarship or something to be able to pay for it. And I was very, very fortunate to be able to go to Pepperdine University School of Law. And there I had the incredible privilege to have as my constitutional law professor Justice Scalia from the U.S. Supreme Court. And he was a marvelous prince of a man who predicted so much of the challenges that we would face as a country and recognized that the agencies were taking way too much control and were dictating Americans' lives, writing the rules, enforcing the rules, adjudicating the rules in their favor. And so it was a wonderful education to learn from him and recognize how our Constitution lives out in the everyday world and why it's so important to guard and protect.
Gotcha. So you already mentioned Justice Scalia, but when interpreting the law, what do you say is your interpretive judicial perspective? Do you also have any other legal minds that you look up to?
Interpreting the law is really important for judges. That is their role. They are not supposed to be legislating from the bench. He was very adamant about that and about the importance of making sure that we have the judicial branch fulfill that role and the legislative branch actually write the laws and the people elect the people to that and the executive branch execute the laws and not be writing their own agency laws and taking all those things into their own hands. So super important from that perspective that we make sure we keep those roles in their right places so we keep that foundation that we were built on to have the maximum freedom for people. Our rights and liberties come from God. They're written down in the U.S. Constitution and in our Arizona Constitution. And our Arizona Constitution in particular says that the purpose of government is to maintain individual rights and liberties. So I'm a firm believer in maximizing people's individual rights and liberties and keeping it the way that our framers intended, because it's how we've kept a republic together and kept it together with maximum freedom for people, which gives us the ability to do wonderful things in the world because we can innovate here. We're not just all in our boxes only doing what we're told. We have a group of free thinkers who can make the products and do the great things that take us to the moon and take us beyond and let us uncover those disease cures and other things. I love that about the United States of America, that importance of made in America manufacturing and made in Arizona manufacturing, and we're doing that on a very big level.
That's nice. Do you have any legal minds that you look up to?
Yes. Many. I would say many. I think of Ed Meese, with the U.S. attorney under President Ronald Reagan. I think of so many whose writings I read on a regular basis. Spoke to a group that included Morton Blackwell a week or so ago. Wonderful to learn from people like that, and Nebraska Attorney General Doug Peterson. Really appreciate his down-to-earth approach and unique application of the law while he serves with a servant's heart. I think our most effective legal minds are ones who see how it plays out in the real world, and they're not up on a mighty bench saying, here's how it will be for you folks. It's got to be someone who's been in that realm and knows how that plays out in real life, because often it's very different than it looks on paper.
Shifting back to your private sector experience, you've had a lot of experience working as a corporate counsel for Ping and Carson Manufacturing. How do you think this kind of experience will contribute to your ability to carry out the position of Attorney General?
It's funny because I never planned to run for Attorney General. People had asked me many times along the way to run for office, and I'd always said I had no interest, so it was never my thought of, oh, I'm going to have this background for this. But looking back, I see it's really a perfect background for the Attorney General's office. About 90% of what the Attorney General does is outside of that criminal prosecution realm, a very important part in keeping the security in the state and making sure that those criminals are brought to justice and victims are made whole is a really important part. But my friends who are attorneys general in other states will tell you that's about 10% of the job. The other 90%, it's making sure that you're overseeing well the environmental laws, the consumer protection laws, the contracts and leases, advising the boards and commissions, 220 of them, and the agencies and the elected officials on keeping within their powers and doing their jobs in a way that helps and serves Arizonans. So looking back, I think it was a great preparation for this. I've spent the last 24 years in-house at Carson Manufacturing and Ping. Carson Manufacturing is the parent company of Ping. We have about 900 Arizonans that we employ, and 800 of those are at Ping. So Ping is the majority of it, but we have some smaller businesses too, some new innovative products, that sort of thing. So doing that for the last 24 years, I've encountered so many of the issues that everyday businesses and everyday Arizonans face and deal with, and have encountered lots of challenges that we had to build coalitions to overcome. And it's been a great preparation for this office. I was also a litigator for about 7 years before I came in-house at Carson Manufacturing. I when I went to law school, I thought I was leaving the family business. I'd grown up in a little bit, I'd worked there in the summer, that sort of thing. But my grandparents and parents had told me the company didn't need a lawyer, and so I thought I was leaving that behind to pursue a legal career. And while I was in law school, the company ended up going through a very significant litigation. And suddenly they looked at it a little bit differently. But I still felt like, no, I wanted to go out and make sure I was bringing something to a job that people needed. I wasn't being hired for my name or anything like that. And so I worked for a couple of different law firms in California and then in Arizona. And I was assigned to represent manufacturers in litigation. And I just developed such a respect for what my family had been able to accomplish, all of the different federal, state, and local red tape that you have to overcome in order to run a successful business over many years, and you have to be able to keep your customers and meet their needs and hire enough people and keep your employees and keep them happy while you're innovating and getting new patents. There's just so much to it, and I really came to that place of great respect for what my family had accomplished. And as they got busier and busier and had more and more challenges, I eventually, after 7 years of practicing outside, came in-house and helped with the family business. And it really was a great opportunity to also represent the company in the wider business community. So I served as their representative on the National Association of Manufacturers Board, which gave me a lot of experience in what manufacturers face across the nation, and then to serve on the Arizona Manufacturers Council Board here in Arizona, and I chaired that for many years because I'm such a believer in Made in America, Made in Arizona manufacturing and the good that does, because another country can keep you from the products that you need, or from the food packaging and other things that you need, or from the national security, like aerospace and defense type of products that we need to keep our country safe and our people safe. Another country can keep you from that if you can't make it here. So it's a real benefit to Arizona to have that here. And so via the company, served as the representative on these different boards in the community and got to know all of their issues too. Last year I chaired the Arizona Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and that was a great eye-opening experience for how to bring in disparate business interests together. You've got not only manufacturers, you've got banks and retailers and healthcare and sports teams and insurance agencies and providers and so on, all these different groups to bring together and coalesce over what are the issues really important to Arizona business. And we lost our CEO, the Arizona Chamber CEO had left, and so during my chairmanship had that opportunity to bring all these groups together, hear what it was they were looking for in the leadership moving forward, and shepherd that process of bringing in a new leader that everyone could agree on and get behind. And so it was a great background in how to build coalitions, how to listen to constituents' needs, how to recognize the different issues that are in government and where government falls down in serving its people and where they're doing great, and be able to come to the Attorney General's office now with that entire background of all those different laws and all those different arenas beyond just the criminal prosecution area, which is also important, but the 90% else that the Attorney General does. And then as a wife and mom, it was a great experience. A lot of people don't know that the majority of the largest number of employees within the Attorney General's office work for the Division of Child and Family Services, overseeing our foster kids. And it's a great opportunity as a mom to bring that knowledge of, hey, kids need more than just a safe place to live. They need sports teams, they need clubs, they need belonging, they need mentors, they need people to come and be there for them. My husband and I have hosted Young Life Club in our home for 14 years, and we see some of the neediest of Arizona and how their lives are transformed when they've got people who come around them and help them succeed and help them shine in something. So it's been a great background all around, even though I couldn't have planned it that way.
Okay. What made you want to leave the private sector to start running for Attorney General?
I was always happy in my job. You know, it really wasn't a sense of, oh, I need to go do something else or become something else. I was really happy in it. And people had asked me many times over the years to run for political office. And I told them I had zero interest. God would have to completely change my heart to even consider campaigning for any political office. But as a mom and a wife, I can't sit back and watch while government policies strip away parental rights and cause our kids to be, you know, masked and isolated and things that I know harm our kids and teens. And as a manufacturing executive and a business person, I couldn't sit back while the federal government is overreaching their authority and making it very difficult for people to run their businesses and keep their livelihoods. And as an American and a third generation Arizonan, I just can't sit back while I see the federal government printing money and empowering our enemies and causing our prices to skyrocket at the gas pump and in the grocery store. These are things that matter, and I can't just go back to the same job I've always done when I see that there's this need, and when I see that our border is unprotected. And I've spoken to a mom whose child was killed by a criminal who violently killed them after crossing our border illegally, and I just have experienced that complete change of heart and desire to serve my state and make sure that we can preserve the safety and the freedoms and opportunities that have meant so much to me and to my family in building Ping Golf from my grandparents' garage, and make sure that we keep that that safety and those freedoms and opportunities for us and for the next generation of Arizonans.
Okay. You've mentioned the border. What do you think the biggest issue facing Arizona is, and what do you think the Attorney General can do to help solve that issue?
I do think the border is the biggest issue. If you can't resolve who's coming in and what drugs and human trafficking and other things that they're bringing with them, that's step one. So it's the number one thing that we have to get right. You just look at the sheer numbers. In Arizona, we would grow naturally by about 20,000 people a year if we didn't have people coming in from other states and other countries. If you just look at the number of births, about 80,000 a year, versus the number of deaths, about 60,000 a year, we would grow by about 20,000 each year. We have way more than 20,000 people coming across the border every single month. It is absolutely unsustainable, and these are not just families turning themselves in. If you look at the border south of Tucson, you'll see it's 90 to 95% military-aged men sneaking across the border. This is cartel-controlled area. You got the two cartel lookouts on the other side of our languishing border wall that the Biden administration doesn't allow us to fix up and shore up, and there's holes in it. It's the first step to a secure people, to have a secure border and a door, so you know who's coming in and you can vet that. Also, for the last 6 years, I've served as the Workforce Arizona Council chair, so Governor Ducey appointed me to serve on our state's Workforce Development Board and then to chair it. We brought together a whole new system for how our workforce development efforts are done throughout the state. It was pursuant to a bipartisan federal law, and I helped write the plan and the new bylaws and implement that so that we could be educating people here for the jobs that are needed by local employers. When employers aren't at the table anymore, when they're not using the workforce system, then the workforce developers don't know, hey, what are the skills that are being sought? And some of those didn't require a great deal of time. We found that there were some programs where we could give people training in 6 to 9 months, maybe airplane mechanics or other jobs like that, where they could come out of school of 9 months of school or 12 months of school and be making $60,000 to $90,000 a year. So good, high-paying jobs that also met the needs of local employers and local regional groups for producing some great products or doing some great service. And it was a beautiful thing to watch that come together. I oversaw 12 different local boards and about 900 Arizona at Work employees who worked with them to help provide this education training for jobs that were here. And it's been a privilege to watch that come together and watch the workforce system improve and provide for people. We have one of our lowest unemployment rates ever now. I believe it's 3.3%. So, and we've done that while bringing in one of the biggest population growths that we've had. We're always one of the top few states of people moving into Arizona because they hear that the jobs are here, and literally 70% of the jobs coming into Arizona in the pipeline are manufacturing jobs, and that bodes really well for our state for the next decade or so to come, because all the suppliers want to locate around them, and then they go out and they need the services of the banks and the restaurants and everything else, and so it keeps the people working together and having great jobs for the future. So what can the Attorney General's office do about it? There's a lot that they can do about it. To start with, we as a state have a U.S. constitutional right to guard our own border in cases of emergency or where there's an invasion. We can have our legislature or the governor declare an invasion and exercise that constitutional right to guard the border ourselves, not wait for the federal government, not wait for an act of Congress, guard that ourselves. And if you look at the legislative history, there's even legislative history showing that in Virginia there were smugglers that came across, and it was the Virginia militia that put that down and secured their border. So that's very comparable to the cartels of today. There's so much that we could do with just doing that first step, and we see that happening in Texas now with Governor Abbott and Attorney General Ken Paxton putting together that coalition to make sure that we start guarding the border ourselves. And Governor Ducey, even just this week, put together a coalition of 26 states in working together to guard our border. But Arizona and Texas bear the brunt of it, no doubt. And why should it cost us more and harm us more than other states? It doesn't make sense that we should do that. So, declare an invasion, exercise this constitutional right, sue the federal government for the extra costs that we have to bear, the healthcare costs, the detention costs, the processing costs, so much that we have to spend as a state to try and guard this, the extra drug-related costs, all of those things. Sue the federal government to pay us back for that. And then our legislature can even set up border courts, do something so that, you can process those cases more quickly. Because what good does it do to tell an illegal crosser, come back in 5 years for your court date? What are you going to do with them in the middle of those 5 years? And you look at what's happening with the fentanyl increase. The county attorney Sheila Polk was talking the other day about pulling over a car that had 1 million fentanyl pills in it. The amount of fentanyl coming across is enough to kill every American in our country. These are emergency times, and what we are experiencing is an invasion. And an attorney general who could build that coalition and provide that legal advice and get people working together so that Arizona can guard its own border, and then get the federal government to pay us back for that and do it in a more quick and streamlined process, can actually do something about making us safe again.
Okay. What do you think are some of the more overlooked issues facing Arizona?
We have a number of them. So once we get the border secure, we also need to make sure that our elections are secure. I think every eligible voter, regardless of your party affiliation, should feel confident in the fairness and the security of our election process and know that their vote counts. I think we also need to address the government overreach into our families, faith, freedom, and free enterprise. It's everywhere and it's rampant, and it needs someone to fight back and say, wait, government, this is as far as you can go. The rights and the liberties belong to the people, and our government in Arizona is supposed to be about maintaining individual rights and liberties. We need to make sure that we are prepared for the future. Our water resources, our education system, our foster kids, to make sure that they're well cared for. And we need to make sure that people aren't being silenced. We need to be able to listen to each other. There was a time when we could all get together in the same room, Republicans and Democrats and independents, and say, yeah, I want to hear from you and hear how this affects you. We need to make sure that we're not allowing certain segments to be silenced by some big media, big tech collusion that says, oh, your voice doesn't count and you aren't allowed to exercise your free speech rights. We need to make sure that we maintain that and that we can have this dialogue so that we can be better.
Okay. What sets you apart from others in your race?
I'm the only candidate who hasn't spent my career in government or hasn't run for office multiple times. I think when you are coming from the private sector, you see your rights and liberties differently. And if government overreach is one of the biggest issues that we're facing, then having someone who has had to protect their rights and liberties in the private sector makes a difference. And when you as a private company, if we get a shutdown order, we still have to look our employees in the eye and provide for them whether or not we have any income. Someone in a government job may be getting the same income regardless whether they're providing the same services or not. You look at your rights and liberties differently when you've had to fight for them yourself and when everything depends on you and what you provide versus a steady government income. Nothing wrong with those government incomes and government jobs. We need those, but you see it differently. And then I'm the only candidate who has endorsements from people who are currently doing the job, the attorneys general of many other states. The attorney general of Texas has come out and endorsed me, the attorney general of Indiana, the attorney general of Nebraska, former Florida attorney general Pam Bondi. Just many of them know that I have the experience, the right experience and preparation for the job, and that I will fight alongside them to make sure that this government overreach doesn't continue to harm our people.
Okay. To round out the interview, can you say something about what it would mean personally if you were to win your race for attorney general?
I would feel like it's the beginning of my chance to really serve my state and serve my country and make sure the beautiful things that I have loved about Arizona and that my family has loved about Arizona are maintained for the future, for my kids, for your kids eventually, for all of us. I've really felt that pull to what can I do to make sure that our rights and liberties are guarded, to make sure that our people are secure. It grieves my heart to see what's been going on with teens and adults getting addicted to drugs, with human trafficking that's gone on at our border, with us being less secure than we were before, with people being vitriolic toward each other and trying to silence each other and not working together. For me personally, it would be a great opportunity to make sure that we do beautiful and good things for Arizona moving forward, and a chance to put my heart and soul into making sure that we watch over our kids and our foster kids and make sure that our people are protected, that our way of life is protected, that we are looking out for our future, and that I can be supportive to other good leaders to work together to make Arizona a great place for decades to come, and we can be a shining light to the rest of the nation and produce things here that our people need and that the world needs, and be that example of what's good and great about Arizona.
Okay, great. Thank you for joining us today, Dawn.
Oh, thank you. This has been a privilege, and I appreciate all that you're doing.